Welcome to True Crime's Altar, where every promise is weighed against the truth, and greed is the silent prayer that turns love into ash. Today, we follow a romance wrapped in risk, stitched together by a dangerous pact. In the shadowed streets of Baton Rouge, a man and a woman plotted a way to outsmart the world, faking his death to collect a fortune. But when the moment came to vanish, she chose a quicker route to riches, a route paved with betrayal and gunfire. This is the story of Sam Turner and Helen Hayes, a reminder that when money becomes the heartbeat of a love story, it will demand a sacrifice. And sometimes that sacrifice is the one person who trusted you most. On the south side of Baton Rouge, Sam Turner and Helen Hayes looked like the kind of couple who'd weathered every storm together. Sam, 35, was a warehouse supervisor, steady, broad-shouldered, with the easy charm of a man who knew how to make people feel safe. Helen, 32, was a hairstylist with a loyal clientele, her beauty matched only by her quick wit and restless ambition. They'd been together just over 3 years, drawn together in the thick humidity of a summer night at a block party, and had been inseparable since. But love is rarely just love. Sometimes it is a negotiation, and sometimes it is a gamble. The money had been tight for months. Sam's hours had been cut, and Helen's shop rent had gone up. Their arguments shifted from playful bickering to quiet resentments, the kind that rot silently in the corners of a shared life. It was during one of those long nights, rain streaking the apartment window, the TV flickering on mute, that Helen floated the idea. She spoke softly at first, as though she was testing the air. Sam's life insurance policy, worth $750,000, was their ticket. If Sam could die, they could split the money, disappear, and start fresh, somewhere the air smelled like ocean and second chances. At first, Sam laughed it off. But as she painted the picture, palm trees, no debts, no bosses, he began to see it too. They would stage a mugging, make it look convincing, and then he would vanish into the background of a distant city, living quiet until the payout came. To agree to a plan like that is to shake hands with deceit and call it a partner. And once you invite deceit inside, it never leaves without taking something from you. The weeks that followed were careful. They studied crime shows for ideas, looked up rural roads where no cameras caught passing cars. Sam withdrew small amounts of cash at a time, stashing them in an old duffel bag under the bed. Helen purchased a second-hand revolver from a man who didn't ask questions. They told no one. This was their secret, their dangerous little seed. But danger does not grow straight. It twists, searching for the quickest way to consume. As they planned, Helen began spending more time at her salon after hours. She said she was taking extra clients for cash, but Sam started noticing the way she dressed leaving in the evenings, extra makeup, perfume he didn't recognize. He brushed it off at first. Trust, after all, had always been the backbone of their survival. But trust built on greed is a bridge already burning. It was during one of those late nights at the salon that Helen met Andre Caldwell. Tall, smooth-voiced, and quick with compliments, Andre was a customer's cousin who lingered even after the braids were done, leaning on the counter like he had nowhere better to be. He drove a black Dodge Charger, wore cologne that stayed in the air long after he left, and spoke of Vegas like it was a playground for the fearless. What began as casual conversation turned into late-night coffee runs, which turned into whispered calls Sam never heard. Andre wasn't part of the plan, but he quickly became part of Helen's thoughts. And when your heart starts drafting a second love story while the first one still breathes, betrayal is no longer a possibility. It is a promise waiting to be kept. By the first week of July, Sam and Helen had their scheme locked. The robbery would happen on a deserted stretch of Highway 61, late enough for the street lamps to flicker, but before the bars let out their noise. Sam would leave his car running, wallet and phone in the glove compartment. Helen would drive him to a safe drop-off point hours away, then return alone, breathless and shaken, to tell police her boyfriend had been attacked. Sam rehearsed his part. Helen rehearsed hers. But the script she kept in her mind was different now. Somewhere between his steady trust and Andre's reckless thrill, she decided she didn't want to split $750,000. She wanted it all. Greed sharpens into violence like a blade finding its edge, and once it gleams, it will not be satisfied by half. 2 nights before the staged robbery, Helen and Andre met in his car behind a shuttered diner. The air was thick with heat and the heavy hum of cicadas. She told him everything: Sam's policy, the plan to fake the death, the payout. Andre listened, his face unreadable, until she leaned closer and whispered the change. "We don't fake it. I do it for real. And then we're gone. Vegas. No looking back." Some sins are born in loneliness, but others are birthed in the thrill of shared wickedness, and they grow twice as fast when watered by desire. July 14th settled over Baton Rouge with the kind of thick, unmoving heat that makes the city feel like it's holding its breath. Sam had spent the afternoon in the apartment, packing a small duffel with the clothes he'd wear in his new life after the fake robbery. A worn leather jacket, a few t-shirts, a ball cap, items so ordinary they'd make him invisible. He moved slowly, savoring the thought that in a week, he'd be somewhere else entirely, somewhere the air didn't taste like exhaust and worry. Helen, meanwhile, was in the kitchen, leaning over the counter with her phone angled just out of Sam's line of sight. She typed quickly, her fingers pausing only to erase and rewrite. Andre had sent a message that made her pulse quicken. "Got a place we can lay low after. Week in Vegas, cash only. My guy can hook us up." She glanced toward the bedroom, hearing the dull thump of Sam's footsteps, and typed back, "Make sure it's ready. Once I do it, we move fast." Her words were the first nail in Sam's coffin, though he had no idea he was already lying in it. When a lover starts speaking of a shared future with someone else, the loyalty they once vowed to you has already been buried without ceremony.
If you're enjoying this video, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. Share and like this video. It's free and won't cost anything, but it helps and encourages us to grow and do more. Thank you for your kindness, and back to the video.
That evening, Sam and Helen took a slow drive through the city. They passed the corner store where they'd met, the diner where they'd first shared pie at midnight, and the park where Sam had once talked about proposing. He pointed out each spot like a man trying to preserve something fleeting. Helen smiled where she needed to, touched his hand when his voice turned soft, but her thoughts were far from the memories he was reliving. She was counting hours, rehearsing her lines, and imagining the weight of $750,000 in her hands. Greed, once invited to sit at the table of love, doesn't just eat. It devours until nothing remains but bone. On the night of July 16th, they finalized the details. Sam's death would happen the next evening. Helen would drive him to the stretch of Highway 61 they'd picked weeks ago. Sam would step out. The revolver would be fired into the air to create a scene, and she would drive off, returning later to report the crime. He would disappear, hitch a ride arranged through a friend in Shreveport, and lay low while she handled the payout. But Helen had rewritten the ending. In her mind, there would be no empty revolver, no staged shots into the sky. She would aim at him, pull the trigger, and watch as the only person standing between her and her new life with Andre collapsed onto the gravel. When love becomes an obstacle to the life you crave, you will either tear down that obstacle or be crushed beneath it. Helen had already decided she would not be the one crushed. The next day moved with an eerie stillness. Sam kissed her cheek before heading to his shift at the warehouse, and she caught herself noticing the way his cologne lingered on her skin. For a fleeting second, she felt the ache of what they used to be. But fleeting seconds cannot outrun days of plotting. That afternoon, she met Andre one last time before the job. He leaned against the hood of his Charger, sunglasses reflecting the sunset. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. Helen's voice was steady, her eyes unflinching. "After tonight, everything changes." Andre grinned and pressed a folded stack of bills into her hand. "Money for the road. Vegas, baby. First thing tomorrow." She tucked the cash into her bag, her decision sealed. Once greed has been paid in advance, it will collect the rest with interest and blood. The night of July 17th fell quiet over Baton Rouge, the cicadas screaming in the trees like they were trying to warn someone. Sam and Helen left their apartment around 10:30 p.m., her old sedan humming low against the damp summer air. He wore dark jeans and a hoodie to blend in, the duffel bag at his feet holding the bare essentials of his soon-to-be new life. Helen drove in silence, her hands loose on the steering wheel, her mind rehearsing each moment ahead. how she'd stop near the mile marker they'd chosen, how he'd step out expecting a staged scene, and how instead she'd end it for real. She'd already placed the revolver in the glove compartment. The air between them was thick, but Sam didn't feel the danger in it. He thought it was nerves, the same kind of quiet before a risky move. Trust can be a blindfold when it's wrapped too tight, and he was walking willingly into the dark. They reached the lonely stretch of Highway 61 just after 11 p.m. The road was empty, the nearest street lamp too far to catch more than the edges of their faces. Helen eased the car onto the shoulder, the tires crunching on gravel. Sam gave her a small nod before opening the passenger door. "See you on the other side," he said, forcing a grin. She watched him walk a few paces away, his shadow stretching long under the weak light of the moon. Her heart pounded, but not from fear. This was the moment she'd been feeding for weeks. Without a word, she reached into the glove box, wrapped her fingers around the cold steel, and stepped out of the car. Sam turned at the sound of her footsteps, his brows knitting in confusion. "Babe, you're supposed to." The first shot cut him off, a deafening crack that split the night. It caught him in the chest, his breath stealing away in a sharp gasp. He stumbled back, hands clutching at the wound, eyes wide in disbelief. "Helen," he croaked, but her face was set, her grip steady. The second shot came like punctuation to a sentence she'd already decided to finish. He fell to his knees, the gravel biting into his skin, before collapsing completely, the weight of him folding into the dirt. Killing for money is not a crime of passion. It is a transaction paid in flesh, and once the bargain is struck, no amount of riches can wash away the stain. Helen stood over him for a moment, the smoke curling from the barrel, her breathing shallow. Then she slid the revolver back into the glove box, walked to the driver's seat, and left him lying there under the slow, indifferent stars. She drove straight to a gas station 2 miles away, parking crooked in front of the glass doors and bursting inside with tears streaming down her face. "Help me!" she cried to the clerk, voice shaking. "We were robbed. He shot my boyfriend. He's still out there." Within minutes, police cruisers lit the night in blue and red. She retold her story to the responding officers, painting herself as the terrified witness to a violent ambush. They took her to the station for a formal statement, her mascara smudged just enough to look accidental. But lies leave fingerprints of their own, and every false detail is a breadcrumb back to the truth. The next morning, detectives returned to Highway 61. They found Sam's body exactly where she'd left it, 2 gunshot wounds to the chest, no sign of a struggle. His wallet and phone were in the car, untouched. No shell casings, no tire marks beyond her own. It didn't smell like robbery, it smelled like something personal. Helen was brought back in for questioning. She stuck to her script, insisting a masked man had stepped out of the darkness, fired twice, and fled into the woods. But inconsistencies began to show. The robber had taken nothing. There were no footprints in the soft dirt except hers and Sam's. And when detectives asked why they were on that stretch of highway in the first place, she stumbled over her answer. "A lie, once told, begins to rot at the edges, and the smell draws every predator in the room." 2 days later, the case cracked open. Surveillance footage from a convenience store near her salon showed Helen meeting Andre in the parking lot just hours before the shooting. They exchanged something, cash, possibly, and kissed before parting. The image was grainy but clear enough. Detectives dug deeper, pulling phone records that revealed a flood of calls and texts between them in the weeks leading up to Sam's death, including one from Helen the afternoon of the murder. After tonight, everything changes. Armed with this, they put her under quiet surveillance. What they saw next erased any doubt. On July 21st, Helen was spotted loading 2 suitcases into the trunk of Andre's Charger. The pair drove west toward Texas, stopping just long enough for gas and food. Their destination, Las Vegas. The greed that once whispered now shouted in every mile they put between themselves and the blood on Highway 61. In Amarillo, Texas, the FBI joined the pursuit. They tracked the couple through hotel receipts and toll cameras, closing in as the Charger crossed into New Mexico. On the morning of July 23rd, as they pulled into a motel off I-40, A team of agents and state troopers surrounded the lot. Helen froze in the passenger seat as Andre tried to back out, but the exit was blocked. Guns drawn, voices commanded them out. They complied, hands high, the Vegas dream dissolving into asphalt and sirens. In the trunk, agents found $8,400 in cash, clothes with the tags still on, and a printed map with a bold circle around Las Vegas Boulevard. Betrayal travels fast, but justice travels faster when it knows the road. Back in Baton Rouge, Helen faced trial for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Andre was charged as an accessory after the fact. The prosecution laid out the story in devastating detail: the insurance policy, the stage plan, the lover on the side, the decision to turn a scheme into a killing. They showed the jury the text messages, the surveillance footage, the revolver recovered from her glove box with Sam's blood on the barrel. Witnesses spoke, friends of Sam, who described his excitement for the fresh start he thought was coming. The insurance agent, who confirmed the $750,000 policy. The detective, who found her inconsistencies too neat to believe. Through it all, Helen sat with her chin high, blinking slowly like none of it applied to her. But when the verdict came, guilty on all counts, her composure cracked for the first time. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Andre received 15 years. In the back row, Sam's mother wept quietly into her hands, mourning not just her son's life, but the trust he'd given so freely to the woman who destroyed it. Love, when starved of loyalty, will rot into something unrecognizable. Greed may disguise itself as a way out, but it is only a road deeper into ruin. No amount of money can bring back a life once it's been taken, and no relationship, no matter how strained, justifies a choice to destroy. If you find yourself in a place where betrayal feels easier than truth, where desperation whispers that crime is the only option, stop, breathe, walk away. Seek help from those who can guide you: a trusted friend, a counselor, law enforcement, before your actions write a story you can never rewrite. Love, when real, does not require blood to prove its worth. It requires patience, honesty, and the courage to fight for each other without turning against each other. And if you ever stand at the edge of a decision that could harm another, remember, walking away will cost you nothing compared to the price of regret. If you were moved by this story, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Could this tragedy have been avoided if love had been stronger than greed? Share your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to True Crime's Altar for more stories that remind us what choices make us human and which ones turn us into something else entirely. Tell us where you're watching from tonight. We love knowing how far our stories travel. Until next time, stay safe, stay wise, and remember, there is always a way forward that doesn't leave blood behind.